everyone, this is Lori. What we are going to work on today is a sublimation project where we're going to create these great circular patterns of ink and paint, and then stamp over it and then sublimate onto a magnet. So that's what we're going to work on. These are the magnets I'm going to use. I just got these off of, I think, Amazon. And once we, create our image and get ready to sublimate, we're going to sublimate at a temperature of 400 for about 75 seconds. So in case I forget to tell you that later, that is the plan. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you some of the products we'll be using. I'm going to be using the Artesprix Sublimation Stamp Ink in black, the Acrylic Lightenting medium for sublimation paint in white. We're going to use, and then several colors of the Artesprix Iron-On Sublimation Stamp Ink refills. So what we're going to first do, what you're going to need is, and you can use a lid or anything else. I created just this little template or a tool, just a round piece of wood that I attached a little square piece of wood on the back to kind of create a little handle. And then I'm wrapping it in plastic wrap just to keep it a little tidy while I'm going to be using it. So anything round, flat and round, you might be able to use a lid or something like that, but this is what I'm using just to create these patterns of ink and paint. So as with any other sublimation project, you're going to need to start with a piece of, you're also going to need a piece of plain copy paper, which I have here. This is just a scratch piece that has some typeset on the back, but don't worry about that. We're just going to be inking on this side of the page, and then we'll be fine as far as the sublimation transfer goes. Okay, so first step is to take your acrylic lightning medium and put that out on your mat in a line. And we have, where's it at? My little tool here, and I'm just going to spread that out a little bit. Okay, there we go. The nice thing about the sublimation paint and ink is you can water it down. I'm going to spray it with a little bit of water here. This creates a little more fluidity. And in this project, what I do is I take the sublimation ink and I start dropping drops of this, of each color. That's purple. The next one, I think I want blue. The next one, where's it at? There's blue. Blue. And if you hear this noise in the background, it's my kitty playing with something in the background, of course, right when I'm videoing. So the next one is green. Okay. Then I think I'll go in with some orange. Okay, and last one I think I will use is yellow. Alright, so there I go. So there I have my little stripe. I'm going to get my paper ready here. Okay, I'm going to keep my thing there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little tool that I created here, and I am going to press it into the ink and turn. And see how that transfers on? I'm going to do a little bit more. There I go. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? And I'm going to press it down and just do maybe a little bit of turn on my paper. And we're going to create that process onto my paper here. Now, if the ink gets a little thick, you can spray it with a little more water and that will loosen up that ink a bit. And you can just keep going. You can keep going until all of your ink is off of your mat. And you can see it just gets lighter and lighter as you go, but that is completely fine. I still have quite a bit of ink on here, so I'm going to spray again. And then I'm just going to bring in some of the ink that's spread out, the ink and paint, and try again. Ooh, I got some of that purple, more of that purple in there. Nice. So we just keep doing this until we used up all that ink. And what's nice about that is you really have very little waste. You can set this aside and use this for future projects, and that's all great. You know, I still have a bunch of ink on there, so I'm going to grab one more piece of paper, and I am just going to transfer that on for some future project. Who knows? I just don't like wasting any ink, so I'm going to get this all transferred and set aside. Okay, so the ink that I do have left on here, I'm just going to wipe off my mat. And get everything cleaned up here. The nice thing about this is I can just take this plastic right off, and then that tool is also clean. Handy dandy. Now, what you're going to want to do on this, the ink that you just inked up here, or the paper, you don't want this to completely dry. You can heat set this with your heat tool if you want, but you do want to, or you can set it aside, either way, but you do need it to completely dry before you start stamping on it. So here I have one that I've let completely dry. And the reason we want to let it dry is because if we do any stamping with the stamp ink over the top of this, if it's wet, then our image from that stamp image can start to blur, and we don't want that. We want nice, crisp images. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these out that I like particularly. I think I'm going to do this first one here. I like this one. So I'm going to trace out around my magnet here that I'm going to sublimate on to make sure that when I go to stamp my image, I know exactly how it's going to show up on the magnet. And if you use a pencil, it will not transfer over to your heat set image. It will not do a transfer. So pencil is good. All right, so I'm going to cut that out because I just want to use that little piece, and it's going to make it easier to work with for the stamping part. Now I like to use a stamp press when I'm stamping because if I want to create an image that's a little darker or whatever, I don't have to worry about trying to restamp over the exact same, and I get the perfect image that I want. So that's what I'm going to do. And I think for this, let's see, what do I want to stamp? I think I'm going to stamp a couple of different things. I'm going to use my BU Dragonfly and also my BU Sublimation words. Now, keep in mind that the sublimation words that we're going to use, and we're going to use the sublimation words first, and we won't need the tool for that. We'll need the tool for the Dragonfly. But anytime you're sublimating and you're directly stamping onto your paper, you're going to need a stamp that's designed for sublimation, which means that it's going to stamp on reverse image. So that reverse image, when you lay it down against your right faces, you know, with your sublimation substrate, that it will then transfer appropriately. If you use just a regular stamp, then and do that process, the words are going to be backwards. And so I am using, this is specifically a stamp that I had designed for sublimation. So I just want a little bit of design in the corners. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set that aside, and now pull in my stamp press for the rest of it. Okay. So let's see, I'm trying to think of, I think I'm going to want my magnets in those corners because this stamp is big, and I'm just going to end up kind of doing a portion of the stamp showing up on the project. And I think, how do I want it? I think I want it about like that. Okay, so take it over, bring my ink pad back in, and I am just going to now ink up my Dragonfly. Okay. Now what's nice about the stamp press, if I look at that and say, I think I want my stamp image a little bit darker than that, I can just re-ink and come in and do it again. Okay? And boom, I'm good. Now, as I clean up here, I want to remind you that when we stamp over the sublimation ink and paint image, it takes a little longer for the regular sublimation ink that we stamp to dry. We want this completely dry so we won't have any smearing or smudging when we take our magnet and do a face-to-face application there and for the transfer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my heat tool here that I tossed way over here, and I'm just going to heat set the ink. Make sure it is completely dry before I try to sandwich this right face together. So, let's see. You can tell it goes from being kind of glossy to more of an opaque. I think we're good. I'm going to test this just out on my mat. See, we still have some transfer there. And so let's just heat set a little bit more. Let's try that again. Okay, we're good. All right, so now we're going to need our heat safe tape, and we're going to take our magnet and we're going to do right sides together. So the right side, the side that I want to heat set on, is going to go directly against the stamped and inked image here, and I can use those pencil lines as a guide of where I want this. So there we go. I don't want this to move around at all when I am heat setting. So here we go. All right, good deal. So now I need to take some, this is just the protective paper. I'm going to put this in here. Okay, so now you can see here where I have the back of the magnet facing up, but really what I want to make sure that I do is to heat set the side of the sandwich here, the paper side up, because we want it to heat set directly against the paper to be heat set onto the magnet. Okay, so there's my sublimation sandwich. Now I'm going to bring over my mat, and I've got my Cricut heat tool set here at 475, so 400 degrees for 75 seconds, and I'm going to set my ink pad on there, and I am going to hit my start button. Now I'm just going to press a little bit of pressure on here to make sure that it heat sets well. Now when I go to lift this off, I'm going to take a peek at it first, because if for some reason it does not heat set well, if I do not remove the tape, then I can set this the heat back on to the image and heat set longer to make sure we're going to have a good transfer. So here we're just making sure that we're going to have a good transfer. It's always seems like the longest part is just waiting that 75 seconds to and while that's doing that, I'm just going to clean off my stamps of any ink. Might as well make some good use of my time and get my area cleaned up a little bit. Okay, almost. We're getting down to the last 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! Okay. Alrighty. So, again, this is hot. This is really hot. So you don't want to be touching that sublimation, the magnet yet, because it's really hot. You can see here where I don't really have a really good transfer yet that I like. So I'm going to take this back and put this back on for a few more seconds, just to make sure we have a good transfer. Okay. All right, let me try that again. Let's see. Now again, don't touch the magnet. All right, there we go. That's better. And boom, look at that. Ooh, I love it. I love that you have that. The background, I am just going to hold that down while I peel that up. So, all right, so there we go. Perfect. I love how that is so bright, and how the circle is just adding all of the color and dimension in the background, and is allowing that magnet to just shine through underneath that dragonfly. My words are facing correctly because that's exactly what I need there. And so there I go. I have the cute little sublimation magnet now with a bright background and that circular pattern, and all is good. So again, we need to let this cool, and then it will be ready to go. So I hope you like that project. I have a lot more now that I can do because I made so many of these at once, and I can continue to use different images and stuff like that to create the magnets or any other sublimation. This works on any type of sublimation project. But there you go. Have a good day, Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you later.